Dominic Joyce. Thanks for joining me today on the podcast. Delighted to have you here. How are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm good, Paddy. Thank you for having me. Always a delight to be invited onto a celebrities podcast. So thanks, man.
Yeah, a fucking and I don't know what list I'd be. Maybe T list or
I think you're up there. I think you've got more value than a lot of these Love Island like said listers, mate. So
yeah. Well, look, they're selling. Their sex sells, doesn't it? So they'll always have the advantage unless I take a different career path.
I don't know. Maybe perhaps take off the tie and button a couple of buttons on
Yeah,
the shirt. Maybe you never
yeah.
know.
Oh, we're going X-rated fucking 45 seconds in. But yeah, so
That's how
Dominic,
it's got to be.
great to have you on. So just to give people a bit of background about yourself. So I wanted to get someone on who actually works in the field of recruitment so we can kind of talk through some of the myths, bust a few myths, talk about what really goes on behind the scenes from the employer side. But yeah, why don't you tell the people a bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dominic Joyce. I've been working in the talent field now for pretty much 8 years. I started agency side, had a few years in that space, then went internal about halfway through my 8 years, and started a company called CVUpgrade because I guess like Paddy, got tired of looking at really bad CVs, not a lot of advice out there for job seekers. So that started, 4 years ago now. In that time, 600 clients plus now, like yourself, been on TV, radio, alongside working as a recruiter. And most recently, I'm now starting a job in September as a head of talent. So I've been working in recruitment for 8 years now, made that gradual progression from agency consultant, manager, and now a head of.
Fantastic. And how are you enjoying the time off before you start your new gig?
Yeah, it's been good. I've got a 4.5-year-old daughter called Ava, who is definitely appreciating having daddy around. In fact, after this podcast, we're off to Bouncy Castle and Trampoline Park. So it's, I think I'd encourage anybody that's changing jobs. This is probably a little first tip there. You don't have to go from ending on a Friday to starting on a Monday. Take a week or two out if you can do for if you haven't got kids, recharge your batteries, do a bit of travelling. If you have got kids, spend time with them.
Yeah, because this is probably the most time you'll get now for the next God knows how long. So, and that's all that really matters when it comes down
Or a
to it,
long
isn't it?
time.
Just the people in your life, your
Yeah.
family, the
So
people you care about. Um, but yeah, so you were recently back on the market, which was interesting to see someone who was an expert at helping people find work, and you then had to dive in and become the job seeker and seek out work. And I just want to get, your thoughts on your experience as a job seeker. What was it like? What were some of the biggest challenges you faced, given that you have the expertise to go out there and know exactly what hiring managers are looking for because you yourself are one. So it's a really interesting perspective to get from someone who, the roles were reversed, say. So yeah, what was your experience like?
indifferent, I guess, is the way to summarize it. Unfortunately, I think I was then witness to a lot of bad practices that are currently being conducted by recruiters in the industry. So I had some great experiences, some great chats with recruiters that were consistent, continual, and were supportive. I had ones where they reached out to me, had a role for me, made me sign all kind of right to represent and so forth and register with their agency, to then find that the role that I was put forward to didn't hear for 2 weeks, had to chase myself. I was ghosted. I had offers to meet directors, then materialised, and then the recruiter that I was talking to was then posting on LinkedIn continually, ignoring my messages. So I get now I always was aware of it, but now I fully see from experiencing it myself, the ethics, the behaviours, the practice of recruiters still needs to be improved, because it's almost as if they don't like giving bad news, or they don't want to kind of reject someone face to face. They're having to kind of sit behind a keyboard and hit reject. When it comes to having that conversation, just pick up the phone, and very few do. So that's what I kind of found. And also there's a lot of unneeded process and steps in the process, and the amount of times that companies don't really know what they want. And I've interviewed with them and they've been like, oh, now we spoke to you and reviewed the scope of works, the role's different, now it's changed. So I think a lot of people now, from my experience too, is an issue of process. Companies, how they're bringing candidates through the pipeline and the steps needed, and it's testing, or I've had to do presentations, I've had to do SWOT analysis, employer brand reviews, and all the while I'm thinking, is this really relevant to the process you'll put me through for the role you're going to offer me? Other people that, even the salaries too, there have been ones that are 40k, ones that are 120k. So the industry right now is just completely, I think, look, candidates now have more choice because there's more roles out there. But then it also seems that then, because that's the case, you'd have thought companies would be more better with their process around attraction, retention, communication, but they're not. So the job that I've taken, I had 2 interviews, one with the head of HR, one with the global head of HR, offered in 2 weeks. Others, I still haven't heard back now, Paddy. I applied to them back in July time. Yeah. Still haven't heard back on the next steps and some interviews.
Nuts. And yeah, I've heard it's crazy out there, and I've heard of 11-stage interview processes as well, which is, it's just insane. And what seems to be happening is, like, first of all, what you talked about, where people are afraid to give bad news. It's like, naturally most people want to avoid conflict, and it's much easier to just tell a candidate that they're not getting put forward to the next stage, not have to take that call and listen to a few seconds of their pain. But from the candidate side, they don't know where they stand. So you're thinking in your head, you're anticipating that there's still an opportunity here to join this company, and you're still a bit optimistic about the opportunity, and it's in your head. But when there's no closure, it just takes up that mental space, and that can take its toll on the job seeker when you're out there, and perhaps all you're getting is rejection, and this just builds and builds and builds, and it can really take a toll on your confidence. Why do you think it is that?
Did mine as well.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, so yeah, you're right there, and it's what perhaps didn't touch on, but you brought it up was quite eloquently, was my mental health. Even though I had a big network of people, 35,000 followers on LinkedIn, people assume that followers guarantee you interviews or guarantee you jobs. They don't. Just more visibility. You still have to go through the process of interviewing, having rejections, and after a while you do kind of think, is it me? And you do question yourself. And I think what I've learned is, look, it's not me that's the issue here, or the problem, or it's not my fault. It's basically I'm not the right fit for that company, and they equally don't deserve my skill sets. So it's always a case of taking rejection as like, well, what's wrong with me? It's a case of, well, perhaps it's not me that's a problem. It's the company, their process, how they conduct themselves, or generally, I don't fit into their demographic of people or personality or skills, and vice versa. So you're right in saying that maybe I did question myself at times, then realise, well, no, I haven't got to where I am today from luck. It's down to the skills that I have. It's just finding the right employer, the right recruiter that sees that and goes, yeah, this is the person we want.
Yeah, exactly. And even sometimes it can just come down to personality, how much I like the person I'm talking to. And then you'll make the decision purely based on emotion, and then you'll rationalize it with the logical mind, where it might not actually make sense, but your emotions steer the decision. So yeah, it's about trying to, yeah, that self-talk is hugely important, and it's great that you had the awareness to look at the bigger picture and realize, look, I'm in the game 8+ years. Like, I know my stuff, so it will happen eventually. But it's interesting that you touched on the personal brand side. So I seen you put up a post on LinkedIn that last time I checked, you might have to update me, but it reached over 500,000 users on the platform, hundreds of comments, everyone singing your praises, everyone championing your skills. You've created this unbelievable network through what you've given back to the community on LinkedIn, which is one of the great aspects of LinkedIn. And still, it wasn't a straightforward process with the reach of the post, telling everyone that you're available and you're open to discussions about employment and new opportunities. And it still wasn't straightforward. You still had to go through all the sludge, all the pain that most job seekers have to go through. Because I just thought when I seen that post, he's gonna be offered a job directly just from writing up that post.
Yeah, I think this is why I think someone put a post out the other day as well that was like, CVs are now dead, your personal brand's where it's at for getting jobs. And of course, I disagreed and said, well, I did a post, I've got a strong personal brand, it had 500,000 views. I didn't get an offer on the spot. I got approached quite a bit, which is really nice to see. But equally, it's always a case of, right, conversation, right, definitely synergy here, what you want, what we're offering, now send me a CV. So I think people want to conduct it. I think it's down again to the whole inclusion side of it and making sure, of course, that it's ethical for everyone that's coming in the process, that if suddenly I then had a chat with a head of HR and got offered the job, but didn't go through the same process as the other candidate, and that got found out, I think so people are trying to be more careful now about making sure that every candidate gets the same experience. And yeah, I think what's happened more recently is that, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of coffee chats now prior to going through the process to make sure, and no one will admit it, but you're a face fit, you're a personality fit, your ways of working around your industry, recruitment, finance, marketing, matches their vision. If it doesn't, there's no point in putting you forward. So I had numerous coffee chats before even going to interview stages. But I think you're right what you say, personal brand will definitely help you become visible, because having that many followers, of course, you know how it is with LinkedIn. You like a post, your network sees that you like that post, and then of course from there, they'll then see it. So 100% it helps to put out, good content first of all, or just any kind of shite. So I saw now, I guess I can swear on this podcast, but if not, I think we've done pretty well to get, 15 minutes in for the first swear word. So, yeah, you can't just dump any old shite out there and hope it lands. So it's about having good content that's personable, that's authentic, and then also having a good network. So I was very lucky to kind of have the outreach, and I had people reaching out to me about jobs that weren't on the market. So yeah, I think it's leverage your personal brand to basically create exposure, but still make sure you have, a really tight CV, and that you have obviously able to present your experience and skill set correctly when questioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like it will definitely open doors, but it's not a banker. It doesn't guarantee it. But you touched on something there about HR teams trying to cover their tracks and things like that, which probably brings us to our first myth to bust. Or I don't know if it's a myth. I'd love to get your perspective on it. But you see the term getting thrown around quite a lot, the hidden job market, where I think it's the slang is 80% of all jobs are never advertised. And I see both sides, right? I see that from people who work directly in HR and recruitment, like they'll state that there is no hidden job market. It doesn't exist. There might be outlier cases, which there is with everything. Nothing's ever 100%. But then you get people from the other side who have been promised a job. I've experienced it myself, where I was promised a job at a finance corporation. My friend is really high up there, and he was able to get me in with the hiring manager. They posted a job on Indeed. Through their company policy, it had to be live for up to 10 days, even though it was just a formality where I was going to get the job. It was promised to me, and I've shared this information on my channels, and I've been fed thousands of comments at this point where people have shared their experience that was similar to mine as well. So what would it's definitely not black or white, but what is your opinion on the hidden job market?
I think from my own experience now that there are jobs that are hidden, not to the extent of, and again, you know how it is, Paddy, people that have never worked in recruitment, the spout, oh, it's 80% of jobs are hidden. If it was, then we need a lot more recruiters then to fill these jobs, because, you know, I used to, when I was a recruiter, fill about 20 roles a month. So, you know, saying that I've then got another 80 to fill, it's not the case. I think a few of the head of talent roles that I was approached about had either been put out to market, then closed, then the candidates that were interviewed weren't any good. So before they went back to market or open the role, I'd then be approached saying, hi Dom, we've got this job, head of talent, are you interested? Couldn't find it on their careers page. So I was like, okay, so is it a hidden job? Or transpired that it was advertised historically, either candidate took the offer, obviously got a counter offer, and so some of them aren't necessarily hidden. They may have been advertised at some point, but sometimes if you then, it's also, I think companies care about the I guess how they're presented. If they put a role out for a head of talent, close it, reopen it, close it, reopen it, it's that perception of, well, what they're doing. Whereas if they open it, close it, offer someone, they're not accepted, then I think, well, we can't really advertise it again. Who do you know is in the market by looking at our network? Hey Dom, so at head of talent role, I've got this role, can't see it online. But at one point it was. You also have ones where there's like a senior exec leaving. You don't want to make it public that they're leaving. You conduct your searches, you know. Equally as well, you know, as a recruiter, Paddy, you have to pipeline and you have to look at roles that are being coming down the pipeline 6, 12, 18 months. Yeah. Some people have long-term notice periods, so you may try and approach someone that's going to have 3 or 6 months about a role that's not advertised yet, but will be. But in order to make yourself obviously a project or a pipeline of candidates that are suitable for a hire in December, you're looking now. The role's not even live yet, or will be live, but equally it's not posted. That's when, again, there's a perception of, well, it's a hidden job. It's not hidden, it's coming to market, but I'm being proactive in that time. Or it could be as well, you know, someone in post is being relieved. You want to try and get someone in that post ASAP. So when that person leaves, the person then can slot in seamlessly and not have to wait for a long notice period. I had that at one company. They were leaving their head of talent. They weren't aware. Hence why the role wasn't posted externally. So is there a hidden job market? Yes. Is it to the extent of 80%? No. Are there generally valid reasons for them being hidden? Yes. Sometimes they're not. I can't sit there and say 100% they're all hidden for a good reason. But no, I think it's a case of you have to be careful as well when you approach someone about a job. That's not because it takes one person to then go on LinkedIn and go, oh, for example, Coca-Cola approached me about a job as a head of HR. Can't see it on there. It's a hidden job. So you have to be careful how you approach the person, and equally as a candidate, how you handle that information.
Yeah. I mean, you broke it down really well there, because there's so many nuances involved here that it's easy to jump to any type of assumption that all these jobs are hidden, because you might have had a personal experience where, like you said, a job was offered to you or a invitation for an interview and the job had already been advertised, but they want to show strength. They want to show that they're not struggling to find and attract talent. So yeah, there's just so much to it. To say that, and to say that it's an exact percentage is very disingenuous, because it's not an exact science. as you know, working in recruitment. But just to shift gears a little bit, so from my perspective, of course, people will always need to find work and be able to support themselves and support their family. And being an entrepreneur or setting up your own business, it's just not for everyone. And that's totally fine. You don't need to go off and run your own ship. You can get everything you want for working for someone else. But for the people out there who would be thinking about setting up something on the side while they're working full time, with the hope of possibly one day going off on their own, especially for people who have young children, have a family, and are out there working the 9 to 5, what I'd like to just discuss, because you've been through it, you set up your own CV writing and career guidance business. You ran it for 4 years, I think. Was it 4 years? 4 years.
Feels longer.
Yeah.
4 years.
And, I know CV writing firsthand is no walk in the park. But what are some of the biggest challenges with trying to balance full-time work, spending time with your daughter, spending time with your family, and trying to generate business for the side hustle?
Yeah, I guess looking back now, it's probably one of the most challenging things to do. And I think looking back now, I still don't think that I got it right. I tried to make the best of the choices that I had with what was in front of me. And I think when you start out, this is whole cliche that most businesses fail within 18 months or don't make a profit. I remember I started in July, come end of the year, I think I made, because I was pumping a lot of money into Google adverts, which is a waste of money, by the way. I made a net of £50 profit in my first year. And I was like, what the hell am I doing this for? What's the point of this? But I started then charging more money, more referrals. And I think, it's definitely about keeping up a routine and being structured in how you work it, because it's easy to kind of say when you're setting up a business, I've had a bad week or a bad month, my children need me, my job needs me, let's just put it to one side. It's being consistent. I think I always made the proviso that I never work weekends at the start. So my daughter always had my time. My daughter's 4.5 now. At the start, of course, you work, you have them for an hour or two, they go to bed, you then write CVs from 8 till midnight some nights, pull in 50, 60-hour weeks, whilst working on broken sleepers. Everyone tells you has got kids, having a young child for the first year, your sleep patterns are never sort of structured. So I think I did it as well. The reason why, I think, find your reason why you want to make this business work. If it's just to be greedy and have more money, that's fine, but that will only keep you so far. My reason for doing the business was, one, ethically to help improve the market for CVs and give better advice organically from writing CVs, creating posts. But equally as well, mine was kind of funded by my daughter. So I had a pretty shitty childhood growing up. It wasn't great, didn't have a lot. And I always promised that my daughter would never see or experience things that I did as a child growing up. So a lot of what I did was building a future for her. So now she's got enough money in her bank account when she's 18 to go and buy a car, go travelling, go to university, invest it in Bitcoin, although I'd probably not advise doing that, or whatever new gimmicks out by then. So mine was kind of fueled by, it's finding your why and why you want to do it. If you're looking to start a business that you think, right, the industry needs this, it's broken, run with that, and always use that as your motivator, because there was times when I was that tired that I'd sit at my desk and be like, or I was that tired that I was dizzy. And I think you need to remove yourself from all factors sometimes and have a break for yourself. So find your why as to why you do it. Stay true to yourself. As the saying goes, one swallow doesn't make a summer. One bad day or one bad month does not mean that you're failing. Be consistent. Also be genuine, authentic as well, because it's easy to look at content elsewhere and copy that and paste that. be yourself. I think a lot of things that I put on LinkedIn are a little bit off the cuff, a little bit. I should have got banned for that comment, but I was being me. I was being real. So put yourself, your brand, your approach into what you promote. I've said comments on there like, I think, and I should have got banned for this. Someone who wasn't even in recruitment is now a career coach put a post out saying, don't put the green banner up. So you're in the market for work. And I said to that person, I'd rather shit my hands and clap and take advice from you. Should have got banned for that comment. That was heinous. But that's my approach though. I'm always, people say that I'm blunt, I'm direct, but from a good place. And that's kind of, I think, where I was lucky to succeed in my job. And I could do it full time if I wanted to. But I love recruitment that much that I want to remain relevant and give relevant rights to my network by staying in recruitment and I guess parking the CV side now. I can still give advice to people on careers, CVs, job hunting, and remain current. I don't have to write CVs to do that. I can still give out content and advice like yourself.
Yeah, you can continue to build that brand while the full-time work is commencing, and then that opens up so much potential opportunities for the future as well, because you're staying relevant, because you're building a community based on your knowledge and experience. But yeah, what you touched on, I can resonate with so much of it there, because what I'm doing now, I couldn't imagine trying to balance a 9 to 5 with just the scale that I'm trying to operate on. And obviously you can scale down. So I just can't, especially with CV writing, where one project, it entirely depends on the experience of the client. But some projects can get dragged out for a couple of days because there's back and forth and you're iterating. And to have a 9 to 5 and then to have a 5 to 9 after running, especially the type of business you were running, it's tremendously challenging. So you don't want to be, money can be a good motivator, especially if you're under pressure. It can force you into action, but that can be short-lived. What you said about having a why, there's a great quote by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Holocaust survivor, and he says that he who can bear any or he who can bear any how, I don't know what the quote is actually. I'm a bit stuck here. What was it?
I've not actually heard that. Was it Viktor Frankl, was it?
Yeah, he has a really good quote about basically once you have a strong enough why, you can bear any how. That's along the lines of it. But you need something that has true meaning to you as well, because there'll be days where, most days probably, that you won't feel like doing the work, and it'll be just easier to put the feet up. But if you have that purpose, if you have that why, you can persevere through it. So, and it's much easier if it's something that you feel passionate about, that you care about. And there's definitely a lot to be said about transforming your passion into a business, because let's say that you and me start a CV business, and you absolutely dread it. You're just doing it for the money. But I feel a connection to getting people to a place in their career that gives them what they want. I feel genuinely connected to helping people with that. But you're just doing it for the money. And over 5 years, because I'm deeply entrenched in the meaning of the work versus you just doing it for the money, you're far more likely to drop off versus where I'll last, the full 9 yards, because I have that why. So if you are going to go off and venture out on your own, or just if you're thinking about setting up a side hustle, it's definitely worth considering that you pick something that you enjoy, that you feel a real passion for. But yeah, fair play to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think as
Go
well.
on, sorry.
Yeah, I think as well. Naturally, it helped me secure my job. I mean, my career, I was very lucky. I say lucky. I also grafted my nuts off, but back in 2018, I was still a lead recruiter, and 4 years later, I'm now going to a head of talent role. I think that was definitely obviously my own hard work in my 9 to 5, but equally, I think it's down to what I did in the 5 to 9 with the business, the personal branding, how I built myself. That definitely, I feel, helped me kind of accelerate my career in talent, because I got into recruitment at 26, 27, so that's quite late in terms of most people that leave university and get into it. So I think, yeah, you're right. It's finding your why, but also having a clear vision as to what you want to achieve from it. I never wanted to go full time with it. My passion wasn't to go full time and write CVs and do career coaching. Mine was just kind of use it to say, well, to an interviewer, I care that much about recruitment, about getting good talent, that I then dedicated my own time at a cost, appreciated, to helping people with their CVs and careers. But then equally, yourself, you, me have jumped on LinkedIn together and done LinkedIn Lives and given up our own free time to still, you know, coach and advise the networks we have of the best practice of CV writing, job searching, interview techniques. So I think a lot of sacrifice that I gave, definitely helped there. And it's a case of, I learned as well a valuable lesson that from a lot of podcasts as well is, don't be afraid to give away things for free, because that then will help elevate your brand. And the amount of templates like you that I give away, advice that I give away, it was never a case of, I know the secret sauce, but it will cost you. And I found that the more I gave away and the more that I helped people, the luckier I got in my own career.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't hold on to the secrets. And most of the biggest creators that I'd follow, there's a couple of guys in the personal branding space, and they basically they give out their entire roadmap for how they got to where they are now. They give away how much money they're earning, like every minute detail. I think the problem is that we've so much information that it's taking the action is the problem. It's not that we don't have the answers to get to where we want to go. It's it's just finding the motivation to act on what you're learning. And it's so true, because the channel that I've built up on the likes of TikTok and Instagram, that's all through just free advice, just telling people what I know, or like you said, what are the best practices, not holding anything back. It's not like, you're only getting a little teaser of what I know. It's like, I'm going to tell you everything. But you find that that's how word of mouth spreads, where people go, he's the guy you need to go to for XYZ, because he helped me do this. And a lot of people will pay you for, let's say that you tell them exactly how to write the perfect CV, you do a full breakdown, a video step-by-step manual. They'll still want you to, there's still people out there that will want you to write the CV for them. So I think with a service-based business like we're operating in, or any type of coaching, I wouldn't be holding anything back.
Yeah, I think also as well, like if you look at what we do, it's comparable to being a personal trainer or a mechanic or a landscape gardener. This is why people I don't like how they devalue what we do, because a mechanic can tell you, hey Paddy, your carburetor's messed up, here's how to change it. And you can say, right, thank you. You can say, sod that, Pat, I'll pay to do it for me. PTs, here's how you get more muscle and less fat. Here, go and do it. Or, no, I want you there to sit with me and tell me and coach me. Okay, that's X amount per hour. So what we do is just as valuable as a gardener, landscape gardener, as a PT, as a mechanic. Anything we do is we tell people how to do it. We give out the information as to, here's a how-to guide of how I do it. But because then you have that openness, the transparency and the credibility behind your brand, they know, well, there's no like, here's a little teaser of step 1 or step 6 of doing this. To download the next 5 steps, pay £10. You're like, hold on a minute. So what we do is really, really valuable, and we tell someone how to do it, but then they'll go, right, this guy knows his stuff. I can go and do it fine, but I have the money and the means to have him do it for me, knowing it will be a stand-up job. So that's kind of why, and obviously this is how You Me came about. I found your TikTok posts, and I was like, you know how it is on socials. You look through and you go, shit, shit, clickbait, shit, shit. And I saw it, I was like, I like the cut of his jib. I like the outfit. He kept it obviously as a, as a profile. It was very likable, and I was like, this guy I've got to follow. And each time I looked at your posts, I was like, I agree with that. I agree with that. That's not clickbait. And I was like, this is finally a person that has created a profile where he gives solid advice through no means to gain anything from his clients. It's just to basically help people. And that's why you yourself have had such great success.
Yeah, and you touched on it earlier as well about being authentic, like just giving yourself away, not being, yeah, not trying to have a ulterior motive, like you said. You're out straight. That's how I found you on LinkedIn, because through all the noise and through all the virtue signaling, there was a real voice coming through your content, and that's what people want. People, you'll find that the people the people that resonate with your message will find you and they'll connect with you. There'll always be people that that will be on your team, because a lot of us, we think in very similar ways. So if you're just true to yourself, naturally, as a consequence, you'll find your tribe. And rather than trying to pander to everyone and everything, because you can slowly lose touch of who you are, and because you can become your audience, what they resonate with. Let's say I put out a piece of content and it hits the mark, and then I go all in on that piece of content, and that becomes, it could be anything. It could be, I've had bouts of it. I'm trying to pull back a little bit, but shitting on LinkedIn, say, because of some of the nonsense that's on it, that yeah, it can get me riled up. But if that could become my whole shtick, where I'm just, posting LinkedIn cringe all day, and then, the people that will enjoy that will engage with it, and then that could become my whole thing. But it's trying to find what's true to you, and then just letting rip and not worrying about the consequences or what people will think. And it is difficult, especially with how things can get misconstrued online, where people can chop up a clip about what you said and use it against you out of context. So it is a balancing act as well, because you, as much as you want to be completely open and honest, there's some things that you can't say.
No. You want to say it, like, I want to say things about certain companies that hire people where, they put pictures of their staff outside their shop or their head office, and there's a famous sports brand. I'm not going to say names, but they always do their new starters outside their HQ, and they're always of the young demographic. You wouldn't see 60-year-old Trevor in corduroys and a polo shirt outside with them, even though he's probably capable of doing the job of accountant, marketing, design. But yeah, there's things that you kind of see companies do as well, and you want to call it out, but that anything that you say or do will be seen in a negative light, despite you trying to highlight anomalies or differences in the market right now that stop people from basically looking at jobs or applying to jobs.
Absolutely. Like, there's companies that I've worked with. I ran a hiring platform for nearly 5 years, and I've been given instructions by hiring managers to not accept candidates over a certain age bracket. And, I could just post on that tomorrow and just ruin them, and then probably other people will come forward as well. But you just don't, there's just a lot, like, technically, why shouldn't I do that? Why shouldn't I call them out? But I don't know what will happen to me legally. Or
I had it recently where this is it. I mean, I tried it recently, and it was someone bought into a recruitment franchise, as you can do now, and they sent me an email, and the email was, I want to talk to recruitment. And I was like, that's got to be the worst outreach email that I've ever received. And I took a screenshot of it. I removed the person's name, the company name, anything, just so it, even their first name, so just had the text on there. I put it online. I was like, this is all what's wrong with the recruitment industry right now, is lazy outreach messages. And no one knew who it was until some knob commented tagging, oh, this looks like so-and-so company. Is this your person? And tagged the owner in it. I was like, so it was completely anonymous. And now you then go and tag the person that owns the company in it. Rather than forwarding the actual post to him, you've now tagged him in the post, outing him and his company, and some member of staff that he's hired that's not doing the job. You're not helping the situation. I'm trying to educate people here. I had someone in Canada go, oh, that's cyberbullying. I was like, the cyberbully, you have to literally pick out a person and then put that person on a platform. I've shown no person's name here, so how is that cyberbullying again? And it's just, when you try and call out bad behaviours, you try and educate on things that are perhaps are wrong and indecent, it's never, it's so hard to then make it seem like you're coming from a good place. It's just, oh, you're a bully, you're attacking a person. It's like, well, no. I'm trying to say that this is why, and most people agreed with me. I'd probably say it was 98% were like, yep, so true. But it's 2% that then bark up and say, that's bullying, that's that company, can't say that, and all it, and oh, you're what's wrong because you're calling out your own. Well, yeah, of course, I'm going to call out my own industry. I'm a candidate that's been looking for a job for the last 3 or 4 months now. I've seen this. So you're right, it just seems like, I've been told that I can't hire, I've got to hire a female because there's too many men in the team. I can't do that. I can't put on the post due to an influx of male. And then it's like, well, then what about transgender? What about the LGBTQIA plus people? Like, when's it stop? So you've got to be so much more careful now what you put out there and who you call out. So it's best just not to, or just reply with a GIF or a meme, and that way then it's a little bit subjective.
Yeah, and I don't think I think it's welcome to be able to point out where people are falling short, where they're not following best practices, because that's the only, we only learn through open discourse. So if you can be respectful of people, then, and we can have a civilized conversation, then yeah, I mean, we should be trying to be less sensitive, try and be less emotional, and just talk about the facts. And if the facts are there, if someone is, in your example, they are they're performing outreach that's just well below the mark, it's better that they know that, so they can course correct, and it will be better for the company in the future. So if anything, you're doing them a service. Never mind cyberbullying. But it's always the minority, isn't it?
No one sees it that way, did it, Paddy? No one sees it.
Yeah.
No one sees it that way, unfortunately. It's a case of, you have to almost kind of have photo proof to prove that you're not being, because you know how it is. If I then put the text on a post, they say, oh, that's clickbait because you're trying to get more engagement. It's like, well, no, I don't need to clickbait to get engagement because of what I put out as genuine content. But yeah, and the whole just upload a selfie that's got no relevance to your content as well, that does my fucking nutting.
Yeah, but
This is a side subject there. Just here's a post about, about candidate experience, and here's a selfie of me looking all glam with sort of 25 filters.
yeah, it's a strange, especially with LinkedIn becoming more and more like Facebook. Yeah, it's very strange. But look, I just try and scroll on. Just that's your best bet. One thing I wanted to pick your brain on is the interview and hiring experience from your side. So when it comes to, and I know we touched on the fact that personalities play an enormous role in hiring decisions, but if there was one or two things that you've identified as what the best candidates usually have in common, the top candidates, what normally stands out for you when, from the process from start to finish, from the initial outreach conversation to the interview rounds 1, 2, or whatever, to making the offer. What is it that you see as the best candidates having in common?
I think prime example of this is when I was at Klarna. I had 5 recruiters, needed 15, had to hire 10 people at speed. And a lot of it is, and it's dependent on the role and the seniority, but a lot of it is, will this person come in and add value, want to learn, be a team player, or they literally just a mercenary out for a paycheck and out for themselves? And a lot of people that I hired at Klarna, more on the younger side, just given, of course, the roles that I was hiring for were more entry level and more junior. But generally, it was a case of having a conversation. This person actually cares, one, about what the role is. They care about coming to do a good job. You can sit there and throw all manner of questions at people. You can sit there and throw situational questions. Give me a time that you've done this. And the person that answers the question the best will get the role. But I don't want the person to answer the question the best. I want the person to be genuine, sincere about themselves. And I think also is, as they come through the process, you can always tell someone's, I guess, how they feel, that if they're more deeper ingrained in the process now, if you feel that they're starting to open up more, if they're just more of a general nice person. So to me, everyone that I managed at Klarna, I would happily sit there and have a drink with them. And in fact, when I left Klarna, I went to Sweden and had a drink with quite a few of them. So it's about, I'm not trying to find friends to work with, but equally as well, you have to think, will this person want to come in, care about the company they're in, and also care about the role? That's what I care about. Is, does a person actually want to work at my company? And what is about the company? I'm not going to sit there and say, what do you know about us? That's cliche, because that's someone that doesn't know how to interview. What do you know about us? So then you'll sit there and read off every kind of social media stats, like this many followers, this many, so it's finding why they want to work for you. But equally as well, it's in a case of, well, do me and you click? Because on the flip side of that, it's getting cliche common, but you choose a boss, not an employer. So it's someone that, if I'm in a managerial role, can I at least coach, upskill, train them? But equally, what can they teach me as well? Because it's not a complete case of me being there, teacher and student. It's a case of, right, how can I improve you as a professional, get you to be where you want to be in the talent space? What can you teach me perhaps about the modern marketplace from a candidate's point of view or a graduate? So I want people to kind of then, how I decide is based on their characteristics, their behaviours, and ask them general questions about life rather than about work. Because you always find, if you agree, but you almost kind of populate answers to questions. Like, I'm pretty sure, I fabricated answers for all of my questions. Given time that you had difficult stakeholder, how do you handle them? There's probably some truth in it, but I probably elaborated on that quite a bit to make it sound more glamorous.
Bit of chili sauce.
Whereas if you ask someone, tell me about a time in your life that was the most challenging, and what was the challenge and how did you overcome it? That's coming from a genuine place that it's been a real life challenge. I get you need to have the crossover of work and personal life, but it's actually finding that person is genuine and wants to come and do the job. And I think that's kind of where I'm lucky that I'm generally a very good judge of character. I think you can train on good character and skill sets, but it's very, very hard to basically work out or deconstruct someone's persona, personality, or their approach to work. So they could be a great salesman, the best in one company. If their attitude stinks and you put them into a new team, it's like a virus. It's going to alienate the whole entire team. So it's also about matchmaking too as well. I'm not talking about having all females or all males. It's like, will this person come in and bring something different to the team that it needs? I don't want to hire a million Daves who are 35, white, from Manchester. I want to hire people from all across the globe, different backgrounds, personalities, everything that will then... My team at Klarna was the most eclectic, crazy, cool bunch of people that just look at us and we each need kind of our own right. We shouldn't work well together, but we did because we were all different, but all shared the common goal of, one, we like working here, two, we like this team. And even the team that I built, they were going across from like Amsterdam to Spain to see each other because we were remote. The fact that they liked each other that much and they started going traveling to see each other on weekends and giving themselves like little team and crew nicknames showed that I hired the right people because I knew that they would fit well in the team that I had and would bring value, not just from their skills, but also their own personal attitude and their behaviours. They want to work hard, learn, and enjoy themselves. And I'm quite a fun manager. I don't micromanage. I'm like, I want you to here because I trusted you. Here's tools to do your job. Go be brilliant. I'll check in to make sure you're okay. Shit hits the fan. Come to me. I've got you back. Let's work together.
Yeah, that's, it's when you break it down like that, it's really, to be a good manager, it's just doing the simple things well. You don't have to overcomplicate the process. It's just what you touched on, putting trust in your people, putting faith in them, and they'll hopefully return it. But yeah, it sounds like you crafted a dream team at Klarna, especially when people are connecting when they haven't even met in person, when they're traveling to one another. That's insane. But you touched on many key points there, and what you talked about, trying to get to know the person in the interview, trying to get a feel for their life experience and who they really are. I always tell people to try, and it can be difficult, especially when you're under pressure to get a job where you're unemployed and you need money. It's difficult to go into an interview and be yourself, just be genuine, tell people what you really think and feel. And it's the law of reverse order. So by you going into an interview and just not that you don't care, but you're just being true to yourself, that is what opens up the possibility of the interview getting to know the real you. That's how you establish trust. And like we said, the emotional side plays a massive factor in that hiring manager taking you on board. And by showing the real you, they can then make a good judge of, oh, all right, how will this person fit into the team that I already have? Like you said, you had a mixed bag of people that all came together, different backgrounds, and it worked. So if you can be genuine in the interview, and look, I know, like you said, some of your answers, you have to put your best foot forward. So if you're throwing in a bit of chili sauce here and there, go for it. But at the end of the day, if you can show your personality, you'll also then find the right fit for you, because you'll be able to cross off the people that won't be your people, the people that won't be your cup of tea, because only by you being yourself, that you'll make that distinction.
It's like dating, and obviously I talk about quite a lot on a lot of the content that the dating industry and job hunting is very analogous in the way that interviews like dates, and in the first 10 seconds you will know whether or not this person is pretty much going to be your cup of tea. So I think in the same way, approach it as a date. Go there, best foot forward. Don't try and force them to like you, even if you don't like them, because it's very submissive interviewing from a candidate's point of view. You have to go there and impress them. Well, no, they have to impress you as well. So if you want to then be impressed, and that's where it's a two-way street, which you may talk about. Don't go in there all submissive and doe-eyed like, please like me. It's a case of, right, I am me. Here's my skill sets, credentials, and experience. It will cost you. I need to make sure that I like you as well. Yes, you have to like me. I've got to give myself the best, presentation of me and what I bring. But same with dating. Don't chase things that you just want to chase for the shit of being bored. If you're not interested, cut it loose. Very rarely have I seen a candidate, I'm sure you agree, after an interview say, sorry, it's not the right fit for me. They'll just kind of continue down the process to be polite. Don't be polite. You don't like me, tell me. On the flip side, if I don't like you as a candidate, you're not the right fit for me, I will tell you. But how often do candidates email a company and say, sorry, after meeting Tom, Dick or Harry, don't want to be the right fit culturally, or, I'm out.
Yeah, you're spot on. And try not to have that scarcity mindset, because the fact that you got the interview with the company means that even if it goes completely tits up, you could just line up another interview, because you've already proven that you can get put forward to the interview stage for a job that you're interested in. So trying to realize that not everything lies on this one interview, that there's plenty more fish in the sea. Like that's just how you have to think about it.
That's it, man.
Yeah, and another good point you touched on was that there's a massive difference between being good at interviewing and doing the job as well. Because I found when I was interviewing back in the day that I was really good at memorizing lines, but yeah, making them. I'd rehearse out loud in front of a mirror like a drill sergeant for an hour straight on an answer, and when it came to the interview process, and I had done maybe 5 or 6 interviews, and I had repeated the same answer again and again and again. You get to the point where you're able to orchestrate your answer in a way that appears that it's coming off the top of your head. You're a bad actor, like, in a sense. You're able to just, I wouldn't say manipulate, but come across as if this is the first time you're saying it. And not that you're conning people, but you can plant an idea in their head that this person knows what they're talking about, but it could be just pure memory. And then I get into the job, and funny enough, when I got into this job, one of the requirements was Photoshop, and I learned Photoshop on the job. I hadn't a clue what I was doing when I got in there, but this was the first office job that I got into, and it just goes back to what you're saying, that being good at your job is completely different to the interview performance. Yeah, just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, and also as well, you think about content-wise, the content you put out on your LinkedIn to the content you give your interviewer, again, is very similar, because your content, you want it to be shock and awe, and to basically be impressive and to be elevated and be engaging. Same as your answer interview, you perhaps heighten the impact or the cause of it to create the most wow factor. So you almost kind of, the content you're trying to create almost then stems into your interview answers to kind of, again, make it be like, this seems pretty vanilla and pretty placid. How can I pump it up a little bit and make it seem a bit more impactful, a bit more juicier? So yeah, I think there's again very similar there between the content you put out to try and drive engagement and your answers. Is it always going to be wow and shocking and thought-provoking, or is it going to be just quite, run-of-the-mill? But like you said there, I hate answering those questions, and also I hate asking them, because you know yourself, you're sitting there writing down going, this person's completely fabricated this bullshit story up. And it's always the person that answers the questions the best gets the job, not could do the job the best. And that's why, I guess, when I interview, I try to basically bypass those questions.
Yeah, that trying to ask the candidate genuine questions is, rather than the cliche, what's your biggest weakness, where do you want to be in 5 years? They're just going to tell you what you want to hear. So if you want genuine answers, definitely best to ask genuine questions, because the entire interview process can be very disingenuous, because both parties need something from one another, and they kind of skate around it, trying to create this weird dance, rather than just be straight to the point and just say, look, this is what I can do, this is what I can bring you, and from the employer side, this is what we need you for. And then you can have a real conversation and then find the right fit. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to be interviewed by you, Dom. You sound like a dream employer.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see when I go to the next job. But yeah, I think how it's, Paddy. You spend so long in a certain industry that you get tired of it's not even playing by the rules. It's just, they've always done it this way. But guess what? We always get the same results and the same candidates. So I'm very more modernised in how I try and hire talent, train talent, nurture them, give them autonomy. I've always said any company that I go to needs to give me autonomy, transparency and trust. And in turn, I give that to my people that I work with, that I employ, that I hate saying manager, I never see it as manager, but the people that I lead and support, again, from me, they'll get autonomy, transparency and trust.
Yeah, spot on. And to wrap things up for the last question I'll ask you, what would be your best piece of career advice for anyone listening out there?
I think again it's dependent on how old you are really, but I think I kind of separate out from like early careers people as well and graduates that don't feel that you need to get your dream job for your first job. Go out there and, as I call it, sample the jobs buffet. Try one job in one company, and as you go there, 6, 12, 18 months, when you leave, take with you things that you enjoyed. It could be the marketing element, believe behind the cold calling element. And as you kind of grow in your career, you'll soon realise what your skill sets are, what you enjoy doing. You'll then soon realise as well things that you don't enjoy doing. And it kind of then comes to the point where 1, 2, 3, 5 years time, you go, right, I've had 5 years of working. I've done this in that time. I really, really enjoy that. I can't stand that. Here's where I see myself. And sometimes it's more from dumb luck than judgment. But yeah, try, make some mistakes, earn a bit of money. Someone even said, if you go into any career you go into, I forget who the quote is, either earn or learn. If you're doing neither, get the fuck out.
Yeah,
So if you do both, great, you can earn and learn, but either, learn or earn. People elsewhere for jobs, I think there's a thing called it's called sunk cost fallacy. So it was not, I heard it read from it. Basically, it's where you hold on to something that you spent a lot of time building, creating, or put a lot of money into, like your career. So, because you've been at a company 5 years, don't then assume it'll get better or it'll improve if you're not happy there. Just because you spent 5 years invested in there. Know your worth, explore the market, find out what you're worth, have conversations. There's absolutely zero harm. And again, it's analogous, marriage, dating, jobs. You've been there for 5 years now. If you're not happy, don't stay there because it's going to lead to many more years of unhappiness. Life's too short. The job market's crazy as well. So if you don't enjoy what you do, change it and empower yourself because people out there want you. Believe it or not, your skill sets, if we both know Paddy, put correctly onto the right CV with the right content will put you in a way that's desirable. So yeah, think of, I guess, for candidates that are new to the market, graduates that sample the job market, earn or learn, people that have obviously been in it for a while, sunk cost fallacy. Do you enjoy what you do? If not, don't waste time being miserable. Get the fuck out.
man, that's A1 advice there. And yeah, there's a lot of similarities with the dating game, but when it comes to your job, it's an open relationship, you know. And I couldn't have said it better myself. Dip your toes into as many things as possible. Get a taste for everything. Try that buffet out, and yeah, and trial and error. You'll find out what's for you. Dominic, you're a legend. Where can people get more from you?
Generally, my socials are not as prominent as you. My TikTok's like the careers guy. There's like 4 posts on there, so it's not as big as yours. Probably LinkedIn's the best. So just Dominic Joyce on LinkedIn. Or on Instagram again, I do a bit of advice now and again, Dominic W. Joyce. But you find mostly on LinkedIn. Obviously, CVUpgrade.com is the website, but at present, because of the new job, I'm putting all efforts into my career now rather than my side hustle. So on there's content too as well. Or just, go through old posts. Or if you find none of my content useful, go and look at Paddy's content.
Yeah. You'll mutually benefit. And yeah, I'll echo that.
That's it.
Dom is a great follow on LinkedIn. He's one of the real ones. Definitely check him out. You get a bit of everything, but above all else, you get the realness. You get authenticity, which is a rarity on that platform. Dom, thanks very much for joining me, and we'll definitely do this again.
Sounds good. Appreciate your time, Paddy. Thank you for the invite.
Right. Take care, man. All the best.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.